Hello, good day, and welcome to yet another session of Thinking and Working Mathematically. Today we continue with numbers and we are studying patterns and sequences. Before we go ahead, let's define what a sequence is. It's very simple. A sequence is an ordered arrangement of items, events, or numbers. These are sequences. Look closely to identify the pattern in each of them. And in nature, we have patterns all around us. So we've got to look out for those patterns as we move on. Very important. Remember, this is Math and Science Clinic Daily for children ages 7 to 12. Please do well to like and follow, subscribe to our social media handles, Maths and Science Clinic Daily on Facebook, and of course, on YouTube, you get us at Maths and Science Clinic Daily. Do well to share this video, please, with all parents you know have children who would benefit from it. Thank you very much. This is the question. Maya uses matchsticks to form a sequence of squares. Here is a sequence for the first 3 levels. Study the picture closely. Now there's the question, how many matchsticks does she need for the 20th level? You may want to pause this video at this point and copy the question into your study book before we go on. Thank you. Let's move on. Now we are breaking it down. At the first level, we have one square. We could take that as 1 raised to power 2. It gives us 1. A square has how many edges? 4 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the number of edges of one square is 1 times 4, which is 4. And that forms the number of outer matchsticks for the pattern. The pattern, you can say the matchsticks, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 times 4, 4. What next do we do? Do we have any overlapping matchsticks there? No, it's 0. Look closely, there is no matchstick inside. So, non-overlapping. We do not have any two overlapping. So we're going to say the number of matchsticks inside equals 0 divided by 2. Hey, Mr. Matthew, why are we dividing by 2? We are dividing by 2 because if you have overlapping matchsticks, you would have 2 edges together. So to get for a single is just to divide that by 2. So that gives you the 1 edge you're seeing. But in this case, we don't have any. That's why I would say 0 divided by 2. You would understand this more when we move on to the next 2 levels. So the number of matchsticks altogether for the first level is the number of outer matchsticks, which is 4, plus the number of inner, which is 0. So 4 plus 0 gives us 4. That's for the first level. Let's move on to the second level. Now at the second level, you see here we have 4 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the number of squares here, which does be 2 square, that is 4. 2 times 2, that gives you 4. So we go on to say at level 2, there are 4 squares, which is 2 raised to the power 2, to give you 4. The number of edges of 4 squares would be 4 times 4. Why are we using 4 times 4? Each square has 4 edges times 4 squares. That's how we got this as 16. Now when the squares come together, it forms the pattern you're seeing. You would notice something here, that instead of having 2 edges for the 2 squares here, you're having 1. Instead of 2 edges here, you're having 1. So these edges overlap to form the inner matchsticks. So let's do this first by checking the outer matchsticks and then the inner matchsticks. For the outer matchsticks, we have 2 here, 2 this way, 2 this way, and 2 this way. So you do 2 times 2, that gives you 8. So the number of outer matchsticks is 8. So how do we get the number of inner edges altogether? Since we have the total number of edges to be 16 and the outer is 8, to get for the inner you say 16 minus 8 and that gives you 8. But from this point, we can now find the number of matchsticks inside. It's not 8. From what you're seeing here, it's 4. Why? Because they overlap. You have 2 overlapping. So you divide by 2. So the number of matchsticks inside becomes the number of overlapping edges divided by 2. That gives you 4. So what will be the total number of matchsticks in this pattern? Simply the outer plus the inner. That gives you 12. Let's use the same reasoning to level 3. Here you have 9 squares. That is 3 raised to power 2. So the total number of squares used for this pattern would be 9, 3 raised to power 2. Again, you'd see that the number of edges for 9 squares would be 9 times 4. 9 squares times 4 edges for each of the squares. That is 36. Okay? These squares come together to form the pattern. Just like we had with the second level, we also have with the third level 3 squares, 3, 3, 3. So 3 times 4 would give us the total number of outer matchsticks, which is 12. At this point, you want to find the number of overlapping matchsticks. Okay? That's the one inside overlapping. So what do? You say 36, which is the total number of matched edges, right? Total number of edges of the squares minus the number of outer matchsticks. That gives you 24 as the number of overlapping edges, 24. Closely again, you look. We're having 2 edges overlapping here, 2 overlapping here. That is, this and this come together to form a single edge. This and this come together to form this edge. So you divide by 2 to get the number of inner matchsticks or the matchsticks inside. 24 divided by 2. That gives you 12. Now to find the total number of matchsticks in this pattern, you simply say the outer plus the inner matchsticks, which is 12 plus 12. That gives you 24. Okay, so we move on. How do we put this together? We don't have to do this for every other level. We just begin to deduce the pattern and use that pattern to solve. Okay, let's see how we use the pattern to solve. At level n, how many squares would we have? Remember, at level 1, we had 1 raised to the power 2 squares. At level 2, 2 raised to the power 2 squares. At level 3, 3 raised to the power 2 squares. So at level n, we would have n raised to the power 2 squares. Okay, beautiful. What next? The total number of edges of this n squared would be what? N squared times 4, which is 4n squared. Okay, what next? We find out the number of outer matchsticks, which would be n times 4. Remember when it was 1, 1 times 4, for 2, 2 times 4, 3, 3 times 4. So n becomes n times 4. That gives us 4n. So the number of overlapping edges would be 4n squared minus 4n. You bring out the 4, that is called factorization. You factorize the 4. Wow, that word factorization, what does it mean? It's simple. Look here, there is 4, so 4 is a common factor. So factorization means bringing out the 4 and solving the other values together, then multiplying everything by the common factor, which is 4. That is factorization. So we bring out the 4, open bracket, n squared minus n. Look at the 4 is out here. Alright, what next do? We go on to find the number of matchsticks inside. Like before, we divide the number of overlapping edges by 2. These 2 divide the 4 to give you 2. So you have 2 open bracket n squared minus n. So at this point we can clear the brackets. 2 times n squared gives us 2n squared minus 2n. So when you do this, this is what you have. Now it's easy. To find the total number of matchsticks at level n, we do the inner plus the outer. Again, the inner matchsticks plus the outer matchsticks. So that is this. 2n squared minus 2n plus 4n. That gives you 2n squared plus 2n. If you have minus 2n plus 4n, you simply do 4n minus 2n. That gives you 2n. So this is the general pattern for this sequence, or you call it the rule of the sequence, or you call it the position to time rule of the sequence. Hey, you may want to pause this video, go over it again to understand how this pattern is developed. So we move on to the next level. Remember where to look out for the number of matchsticks required to form the 20th level. So this is the answer. At 20th level, number of matchsticks 2n squared plus 2n, where n is 20. So it becomes 2 times 20 raised to the power 2 plus 2 20 times 2. So you have 20 raised to the power 2 is 400. So you have 2 times 400 plus 20 times 2 is 40. That gives you 80 plus 40. So the answer is 8 on, that gives you 800 plus 40 rather. So the answer is 840. Thank you. Again, go over this video again and again so you understand it. Take down the steps into your study book. When you're done, it's your turn. Pause, copy the question, and solve. Please do not keep answers to yourself. Be sure of what you're solving. So, parents, please do well to get across, to validate the answers your children have. And you can request for the PDF of this particular study, which is written and produced by me, so I could inbox it to you on request. Thank you. Have a nice day.